Good afternoon, everyone. This is Justin Nielsen along with Ed Carson. We are live at the Investors Business Daily headquarters in Los Angeles. It's Monday, May 20th, and we've got your stock market today update today. So on today's show, we'll be talking about weakness in semiconductors. We'll talk a little bit about the flat action that's going on in Chipotle Mexican Grill, that's CMG, and we'll also talk about TJX has earnings on tap tomorrow before the open, right?
That's right.
Yeah, okay. So before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at how we closed today. Looks like the NASDAQ ended down 1.46%. That's at 7702. The S&P 500 down 0.68, and the Dow Jones Industrials down 0.33, so not as bad. The Russell 2000, that looks like that was down about 0.71. So definitely the NASDAQ and tech was the hardest hit today.
Yeah, and it's really the chips, and we'll get back to that in a little bit. But obviously that's really been hitting it. I mean, the S&P and NASDAQ went above the 50-day on Thursday, came back on Friday for related things, and in that sort of we had the continuation of that sell-off today. So we're in sort of a nebulous zone. We're still in a rally. We haven't had a follow-through day. We haven't undercut the lows, which would kill the rally.
Right, and so the lows, for example, for the NASDAQ are at 76.27. So we're still, decently above that, but it's getting that resistance at the 50-day moving average. And as we were talking about before the show, if we get a follow-through day, our first thing that we're going to be looking at is if we're below that 50-day, can we get back above it?
And obviously, we're just so headline-driven.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, we could get a follow-through day on some headline, and then it could turn around the next day. And so I'd say even if we get a follow-through day, investors should probably be a little cautious in this kind of environment, knowing that it can immediately just reverse based off of some news.
Right, exactly. So let's go ahead and move on, and we'll talk a little bit about the semiconductors. That, of course, was dragging the NASDAQ down considerably today, and a lot of that had to do with China, in this case, Huawei.
Yeah, I mean, U.S. companies, and this follows on Friday when the Trump administration basically issued an order saying, or maybe it was Thursday, but it was like saying that we are going to ban, U.S. tech from Huawei in most cases. And now over the weekend on Monday, a lot of companies, even Google, a lot of chip makers started doing that. And it's like, it's really sinking into investors. Oh boy, this is really happening. I mean, we might be just at the beginning of a Cold War in technology where you split the supply chains. I mean, it is really going to be devastating in that case. But so yeah, I mean, going through the 200-day, really nasty. This was a leading group, just really falling apart in the last several weeks.
Yeah, and so we'll be keeping our eye on that in the future. Software got hit a lot today, so what we're looking at here is the VanEck Vectors Semiconductor ETF, and the ticker on that is SMH. Let's go ahead and move on to Chipotle. Now, Chipotle, some of the retail stocks have been holding up a little bit better, not getting hit as hard as tech, and Chipotle in the restaurant area, it has this flat area. Actually 2-3 weeks tight if you look on the weekly chart for that, and now it cleared the 721 area earlier this morning, but it really couldn't hold on to that.
Yeah, I mean, it was not a powerful breakout. I mean, it was only up like 1.5% or so at the most, and it came back down. I mean, if you look at the relative strength line, the blue line, that hit a new high because obviously it's already doing well. It's hitting the stock is hitting new highs or close to it, while the market is sinking. So that's positive, but it just shows you how tough it is, even with a stock that isn't really tied to the China trade war, that that's sort of insulated, and yet it can't really break out in this kind of environment.
Right. So on the plus side, it has gotten support at its 50-day moving average, and I guess again that relative strength. That's compared to the S&P 500, and the reason why it's been so high is it just hasn't come down that much.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and let's go ahead and round this out with TJX. Now, TJX, again, this is one that its relative strength line has been holding up fairly well. Now, it has earnings tomorrow before the open. This is kind of a cup with handle area. It kind of formed a handle a little bit earlier and looked like a breakout, but that failed, and now it's kind of a longer, deeper handle, so that kind of changes the buy point a little bit.
A little bit. It's you can see that buy point up there. It's actually pretty close to the left-hand side high, and that would. We'll see. I mean, the earnings growth is not supposed to be particularly great. This is an off-price retail giant. They get a lot of their source their goods from the vendors who either have excess inventory or from retailers who gave it back to the vendors, from one reason or another. And so maybe they're not as directly impacted by the China trade war. whereas the dollar stores and a lot of other retailers are getting hit because they make so much in China, and there's the possibility of huge tariffs. But we'll have to see. I mean, it's still a ways off from that buy point. It's hard to make up ground. The relative strength line is okay, but you can see the stock has still come down.
Yeah, so it is below its 50-day moving average. It seems like it's getting support at the 200-day moving average, but as you mentioned, it's about 6% off of its high. So it's got some room to go before it even clears that buy point at 55.88.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that wraps it up for us today. Just a reminder, we do have a webinar coming up on Thursday. That's going to be on earnings. So that's Thursday coming up at 11:30 Pacific time. And don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, and of course we have YouTube. So please follow us on whatever your favorite social media platform is, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow. Thanks a lot for watching.